So Fallout 3 is one of my favourite games of all time, but one of the things that's really bugged me about this game's plot ever since I was younger is that when you rescue Dad from Tranquility Lane, the cheeky fucker has the audacity to get out of his pod and be like, oh, why aren't you in the vault? I left you there specifically so you'd be safe. And all the dialogue lines you're given are all like, oh, but Dad, come on, but outside. And you don't have the option to actually tell him the truth and say, yeah, I didn't leave the vault for funsies. The Overseer literally drove me out with armed guards. So early on in Fallout 3, during the vault escape sequence, I ran into this vault security guard being bullied by a handful of rad roaches. And this activated my epic gamer brain and made me think this was the game asking me a moral question. I was under the impression that if I turned the other cheek and saved him from his insectoid attackers, he'd be so grateful that he'd become a temporary companion and we'd take on the vault together like the best bros we are. But instead the cheeky shit started bonking me on the head the second we were free of the rad roaches. So like a reasonable person, I murdered him and took his stuff. Ungrateful git. So in New Vegas, I'd finally tracked Benny down to the tops and was ready to dish out some ironic revenge on his ass. But then he starts apologizing and telling me about how he's got this secret plan to take over New Vegas, and how unfair it is that House rules Vegas just because he saved it 200 years ago, and how he'll let me join him in his takeover as an apology, because only super cool wastelanders like us should be in charge, not some prissy weirdo who just sleeps in his tower all day. And this makes me think about all the wannabe psychopathic tyrants I've taken out in my time in the wasteland, and how, hey, maybe things would be better if I was in control instead. But then as I'm thinking this, I realized the cheeky shit slipped out of the room and sent his bodyguards after me. So 8 deaths and retries later, I finally survived the encounter, and only then did I realize I'd just been buttered up. That slimy bastard sweet-talked me and I fell for it. So in Fallout New Vegas, if you're the world's worst brain surgeon and you kill Caesar while trying to remove the tumor from his head, the leader of Caesar's spies, Vulpes, will say he's worried he won't be in the Legion any longer because Legate Lanius, Caesar's successor, doesn't like him very much. However, if you've got a big brain and you defeat Lanius by talking him down, he actually goes on a rant about how smart and clever his mate Vulpes is and how you and him should have a debate sometime. I love the little quest you've got to do in New Vegas to recruit Boone. You just kind of walk up into his sniper perch and tap him on the shoulder, and he just kind of goes, I don't know who you are, where you came from, or what the heck you want. Go find who killed my wife. And from there, it just kind of works out, and you make a new best friend. New Vegas is strange sometimes. My favorite vault of all time is Vault 34 from New Vegas, because I love how the constant radiation in the background makes you feel always slightly anxious, so you never quite feel comfortable in there, even when there are no enemies about. I also like how this makes you consider the armor you're wearing in the vault, because if you don't have power armor at that point of the game, you've got to choose between whether you want to be more resistant to radiation or damage, which is a very difficult choice to make when you realize the place is absolutely crawling with feral ghouls who want to eat your organs. So the other day I was talking to my brother, and he asked me if I have any theories for what I think will happen in Fallout Season 2. I bet he thought he was going to get some vague opinions about the characters in the actual show and how their relationships were going to change. But instead he got a crash course in New Vegas lore and how a character that was in one scene and a vault that he's never heard of are going to be instrumental in Season 2, I swear. I'm probably never going to be asked about Fallout lore ever again. I love how stealth works in New Vegas. The way it works is as long as you're not in anyone's direct line of sight, the game considers you hidden. But a fun quirk of this is that you can sneak up behind an NPC having a conversation with another NPC, and the game will consider you hidden because you're not technically in anyone's line of sight. Then if you get a cheeky stealth kill with a melee weapon, the game will register this as a silenced kill. So the guy who was just talking to your most recent victim will greet you like he didn't just watch you disembowel someone right in front of him. My favorite weapon in all of Fallout 3 is the magnificent combat shotgun, because it just packs such a punch, you know? Because you just feel so powerful when you've got it. It turns the biggest, greenest, ugliest bastards in the wasteland into beef-flavored jam when you've got it. I actually get so attached to the thing that I get a little bit sad when it breaks. Like an old friend who was protecting me is now gone from my life. Even though that makes me sound like a whiny bitch boy. I love this ritual everyone goes through the second we start playing New Vegas. You wake up in Doc Mitchell's house. This lovely little old man has just helped you recover from a shot to the head. He takes the time to give you a psychological exam and some aftercare to make sure you're okay, and then hands you a buttload of supplies to make sure you can survive out there. And you reward this gentle soul by stealing absolutely everything in his house that isn't nailed down, and just charging out the door with it. Oh, we love New Vegas. An NPC that's always made me laugh in Fallout 3 is Cerberus, the Mr. Handy guarding Underworld. The ghouls have him for protection, but if you actually talk to him, he'll basically beg you to turn off his combat inhibitor so he can go on a murderous rampage to all the ghouls that take care of him for some reason. Which I've always found really funny, because if you actually do this, the ghouls take him out really, really quickly. So his attempted ghoul genocide he's been planning for potentially years was over in 5 seconds. But it's also slightly horrifying, because it makes you think if they can take him out, well, what good was he doing protecting them? I've always hated hacking in Fallout games. You've got to do this weird word matching mini games over like some scrambled code to get access to computers. I've watched my buddy Thrawn hack in Fallout games several times, and it always annoys me because he'll carefully consider all his options trying to find all the little things, and he tries to do it very legitimately. Whenever he does that, I just want to shove him out of the way and do that one exploit where you press 3 random options, then close down the computer, reopen the computer, and it refreshes your guesses. Life is too short for that fucking hacking mini game. Fallout New Vegas' AI is something else. So one time I was doing my thing, getting bullied by small geckos in the middle of the wasteland, as you do. And because I'm the greatest courier to ever walk the wastes, I barely survived my fight with these small critters. And right as I'm taking a breath after my very pathetic victory, I noticed Victor's coming up the hill behind me, and I didn't even know he could do this, so I'm sort of wondering what's going on. And the cheeky shit starts going on about, oh wow, it's a good thing I was here, otherwise you would have been gecko food. Like, mate, you barely did fuck all, you came here after the fact. Like, it's almost like he came here just to boast. Cockhead. So when I was a young'un, I went through this weird phase in Fallout where, for some reason, in every playthrough, I'd always pick the cannibal perk and make that my personality. I'm not sure why or what this says about me as a person, but odds are, if I'd killed something, I was taking a bite out of it. This went on for about 3 or 4 different playthroughs where I was just Gordon Ramsay of the Waste, wanting to just sample everything. And then one day, the phase just kind of ended, and I've never picked that perk again since. I'm not really sure what happened there. That was just the time I spent being Fallout Ted Bundy. When I first started playing New Vegas, I was on my way to Prim, and I was really confused to find 2 powder gangers that for some reason weren't hostile to me, despite me basically starting an insurrection against them in Goodsprings. Now, I just got off playing Fallout 3, so I had no idea how the reputation system worked just yet, so I was amazed that not only had I found raiders that weren't immediately shooting me, but ones I could go up and go, you two. I still shot them anyway because I wanted those sweet, sweet experience points. For reasons that might seem obvious, I'm not very good with a pistol. My aim is absolute dog shit. So if I ever encounter a bloatfly in the wild, especially in the early game, I've got to just run at it flailing a melee weapon, hoping I'm going to kill it, because otherwise I'm going to spend half my ammo trying to get rid of it. Even then the little bastard will take out enough of my health that I've got to hobble back to a town to get healed. I really wish the Pip-Boy would let you add notes to locations, so you could come back to do skill checks you weren't ready for yet. I can't tell you how many times I've found safes and terminals in locations that I don't have the skills to open yet that I tell myself I'm going to come back to later. But by the end game, they've completely slipped my mind and remain unlooted.